Commander Vex-9 stood before the High Council, his three eyes fixed on the holographic display, showing a small blue planet spinning lazily in the void. Earth. The name tasted bitter in his translator's vocal synthesizer. "You want us to send what exactly?" Councillor Thrakvel leaned forward, her mandibles clicking in disbelief. "Our most dangerous predator? To that backwater mud ball." "Not just any predator," Vex-9 corrected, his voice dripping with barely contained excitement. "Kralvos, the apex slayer, the thing that makes our enemies wet themselves at the mere mention of its name." The council chamber fell silent. Even the automated air recyclers seemed to pause. Kralvos was not just a weapon, it was the weapon. 12 feet of pure killing machine, genetically enhanced over millennia to be the perfect hunter. Its neural implants could process combat scenarios faster than their best supercomputers. Its bioarmor could withstand plasma cannon fire. Its claws could slice through reinforced titanium like soft cheese. The humans, Vex-9 continued, have been expanding their territory. Their little ships keep appearing in sectors we claimed centuries ago. They smile and wave and offer to share their coffee. He spat the last word like a curse. Coffee, as if caffeinated beverages could buy them safe passage through our space. Councillor Mektor, the eldest of the council, stroked his facial tentacles thoughtfully. "And you believe Kralvos will discourage them?" "I believe Kralvos will do what it does best. Kill. Send a message that even these stubborn primates can understand." Vex-9's mandibles spread in what his species considered a smile. One demonstration of superior force, and they'll scurry back to their little solar system, like the rodents they are. The vote was unanimous. After all, what could possibly go wrong? 3 standard cycles later, Kralvos was loaded into a stealth transport and launched toward Earth. The beast itself seemed almost bored by the assignment. In its holding cell, it methodically sharpened its claws against the reinforced walls, leaving deep grooves in the metal. The ship's crew gave it a wide berth. Even sedated, Kralvos radiated an aura of barely contained violence that made hardened warriors nervous. Target acquired, the pilot announced as Earth grew larger on the view screen, initiating drop sequence. Kralvos stirred as the transport entered the planet's atmosphere. Its enhanced senses immediately began cataloguing potential threats. The air was thick with nitrogen and oxygen, perfect for sustained hunting. The electromagnetic signatures suggested a primitive civilization, barely beyond chemical propulsion. This would be laughably easy. The drop pod landed in what the humans called Central Park, in the heart of their largest population center. The impact crater was still smoking when Kralvos emerged, its bioarmor gleaming in the afternoon sunlight. Primitive bipeds scattered in all directions, making that annoying high-pitched noise they called screaming. Perfect. Kralvos selected its first target, a large human male in what appeared to be some kind of uniform. The creature turned to face the predator, pulling out a small kinetic weapon. How quaint. The beast's combat algorithms calculated 17 different ways to kill the human before he could even aim properly. But as Kralvos prepared to pounce, something unexpected happened. A small human, no more than waist-high to the adults, came running directly toward the scene of impending carnage. The child, a female with bright yellow hair tied in small knots, was chasing what appeared to be a small spherical object. "My ball! My ball!" The tiny human yelled, oblivious to the 12-foot killing machine standing 10 meters away. The uniformed human spun around, his face draining of color. "Emma." "No, get back." But little Emma Murphy, age 6 3/4, was far too focused on retrieving her favorite pink soccer ball to notice the apocalyptic predator that just crash-landed in her playground. Kralvos paused. This was unexpected. Its combat programming had prepared it for armed resistance, panic, even coordinated military response. But this small creature was showing no fear whatsoever. In fact, she seemed entirely unaware that she was in any danger at all. Emma reached her ball and scooped it up, then turned around and noticed Kral Voss for the first time. "Wow," she exclaimed, her eyes growing wide. "Are you a dinosaur?" Kral Voss blinked all three of its eyes in sequence. Dinosaur? It accessed its cultural database. Extinct Earth reptiles. Large. Predatory. The comparison was not entirely inaccurate, though deeply insulting to a being of its sophistication. "I am Kral Voss," it rumbled in what it hoped was a suitably intimidating tone. "Apex predator of the Vorthak Empire, slayer of 1,000 worlds, fear me, small flesh creature, for I am your doom." Emma tilted her head to one side, the way children do when they're trying to work out a particularly interesting puzzle. "That's a really long name," she said. "Can I call you Kyle?" Kral Voss, the most feared predator in 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, had just been renamed Kyle by a 6-year-old human with pigtails and grass stains on her knees. You cannot, I am not. The mighty predator found itself at a complete loss for words. Its psychological warfare protocols were malfunctioning. Nothing in its programming had prepared it for this scenario. "Kyle's a nice name," Emma continued conversationally. "My cousin Kyle has a really cool treehouse." "Do you have a treehouse, Kyle?" "I do not have a... What is a treehouse?" Kral Voss asked, genuinely curious despite itself. "Oh, it's like a house, but in a tree. You climb up with a ladder, and there's windows and everything." Emma began gesturing excitedly with her hands. "Sometimes we have tea parties up there with my stuffed animals." "Do you like tea parties?" Kral Voss's combat processors were running increasingly frantic calculations. Tea parties were not in its tactical database. Neither were stuffed animals, for that matter. "I do not. I am unfamiliar with this concept," it admitted. "That's okay. I can teach you." Emma bounced on her toes with excitement. "But first, are you hurt? You fell from really, really high up." "My mummy says falling down can give you boo-boos." The alien predator looked down at itself. Its bioarmor had several scorch marks from the atmospheric entry, and one of its secondary claws had a small chip in it from the landing. These were negligible injuries that would heal within hours, but the small human seemed genuinely concerned. "I am undamaged," Kral Voss said carefully. "Good." Emma beamed at him. "Want to see my favorite spot? There's a really cool pond with ducks. I bet you've never seen ducks before." Before Kral Voss could respond, Emma had grabbed one of its massive claws with her tiny hand and was tugging him toward a pathway through the trees. The gesture was so trusting, so completely without fear, that the alien found itself following along like a domesticated pet. Around them, the park had erupted into controlled chaos. Police sirens wailed in the distance, news helicopters circled overhead, and crowds of humans watched from what they apparently considered a safe distance. But Emma seemed blissfully unaware of the commotion, chattering away about ducks and pondfish, and whether Kyle might like to feed them some breadcrumbs. "Bread is not optimal nutrition for waterfowl," Kral Voss found itself saying. "It can cause malnutrition and digestive issues." Emma stopped walking and stared up at him with obvious admiration. "Wow, you're really smart, just like my teacher, MS. Peterson. She knows lots of stuff too." Emma resumed their walk, still holding his claw. "Are you a teacher, Kyle?" "I am a warrior," Kral Voss said, though for some reason the words sounded hollow. "I am trained in 17 different forms of combat. I have conquered entire star systems." "That sounds like a lot of work," Emma said thoughtfully. "Do you ever get tired of fighting all the time?" The question hit Kral Voss like a plasma blast to the neural cortex. Tired? Of fighting? The concept was alien to everything he had been created for, bred for, programmed for. Fighting was his purpose, his existence, his entire reason for being. Wasn't it? "I.do not understand the question," he said slowly. "Well," Emma said, swinging their joined hands as they walked, "fighting sounds scary and loud and mean. Don't you ever want to do something nice instead? like play games or watch cartoons or eat ice cream. Ice cream, another unfamiliar concept. Kral Voss accessed his database again. Frozen dairy confection, often flavored with various additives, consumed for pleasure rather than nutritional necessity. Humans apparently found it enjoyable, despite its lack of protein or strategic value. I have never consumed ice cream, he admitted. Emma gasped in horror. Never. Oh no, Kyle, that's terrible. Ice cream is the best thing ever. We have to get you some right now. She changed direction abruptly, pulling the bemused predator toward a small wheeled vehicle that was playing tinkling music. Other human children were gathered around it, exchanging small pieces of paper for frozen confections. Mr. Tony. Emma called out to the vendor. Mr. Tony, this is my new friend Kyle. He's never had ice cream before. The ice cream vendor, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and graying hair, looked up at the 12-foot alien predator standing behind Emma. To his credit, he only paled slightly. Well, he said after a moment, we can't have that, can we? What kind would you like, Kyle? Kral Voss stared at the colorful pictures displayed on the side of the cart. Rainbow-colored frozen chemicals in various shapes and configurations. None of them looked remotely like proper nutrition for a warrior of his caliber. I am uncertain, he said finally. What would you recommend for a first-time consumer? Vanilla's always a good start, Mr. Tony said, reaching into his cart. Nice and simple. Classic flavor. He handed Kral Voss a cone filled with white frozen substance. The predator examined it carefully, sniffing it with his enhanced olfactory sensors. Sugar, dairy proteins, vanilla extract, various stabilizers. Nothing toxic, though hardly optimized for combat performance. Emma was bouncing excitedly beside him. Try it, Kyle, try it. Kral Voss extended his elongated tongue and took a cautious taste. The sweetness hit his sensory receptors like a nova explosion. His neural pathways, designed for processing pain thresholds and combat scenarios, suddenly found themselves flooded with signals of pure, uncomplicated pleasure. It was unlike anything in his experience. No strategic value, no tactical advantage, just nice. This is, he paused, searching for the right words, acceptable. Band? Emma giggled. You like it? I can tell. Your eyes got all sparkly when you tasted it. Sparkly? Kral Voss was fairly certain his optical sensors didn't sparkle. But something was definitely happening to his perception systems. Everything seemed brighter somehow, and the colors more vivid, the sounds less threatening and more interesting. Thank you, he said to Mr. Tony, who seemed to be warming up to his unusual customer. Don't mention it, big guy, the vendor replied with a grin. Any friend of Emma's is a friend of mine. As they walked away from the cart, Emma chattering about different ice cream flavors and which ones Kyle should try next, the alien predator found himself in completely uncharted territory. His mission briefing had been simple: demonstrate superior force, eliminate resistance, send a clear message to humanity about their place in the galactic hierarchy. But nobody had briefed him on ice cream, or tea parties, or 6-year-old humans who held his claws and called him Kyle and worried about whether he had boo-boos. Kyle? Emma's voice broke through his increasingly confused thoughts. Are you okay? You look sad. Sad. Another emotion his programming hadn't accounted for. Kral Voss examined his internal state. His combat readiness was at an all-time low. His predatory instincts seemed to have gone offline entirely. His threat assessment protocols kept trying to classify Emma as potential target and getting overridden by something deeper in his neural architecture. I am processing, he said finally. Processing what? How could he explain to this small, trusting creature that he had been sent here to kill her species? That he was supposed to be a demonstration of overwhelming alien superiority? That every instinct he had been given, every purpose he had been bred for, was telling him to complete his mission? And yet, looking down at Emma's bright, expectant face, the idea seemed not just wrong but absurd. This tiny human with her pink soccer ball and her concern for his well-being, her excited plans for ice cream adventures represented everything his creators had told him was weak about humanity. But she didn't feel weak. She felt powerful. Not in the way that plasma weapons or bioarmor were powerful, but in some completely different way that he was only beginning to understand. "Kyle?" Emma tugged on his claw again. "The ducks are waiting, and I promised I'd introduce you to Mr. Quackers. He's the biggest duck in the whole pond, and he's really friendly once you get to know him." Kral Voss looked around the park. The police had established a perimeter, but they seemed content to watch from a distance as long as he wasn't actively threatening anyone. The news helicopters continued their orbiting dance overhead. Somewhere in the Vorthak Empire, Commander Vex 9 was probably expecting a report of successful psychological warfare and human casualties. Instead, the most feared predator in the galaxy was being led to a duck pond by a 6-year-old girl who had renamed him Kyle. "Very well," he said, allowing Emma to guide him toward the water. "I would like to meet Mr. Quackers." As they walked, Kral Voss began to suspect that this mission was not going to go according to plan. In fact, he was beginning to wonder if the plan had been fundamentally flawed from the very beginning. But that was a problem for later. Right now he had ducks to meet and breadcrumbs to distribute with proper nutritional considerations. Emma was counting on him, and for reasons he couldn't quite explain, that seemed more important than anything else in the universe. The mighty apex slayer of the Vorthak Empire had found his match, and she was 3.5 feet tall with pigtails and an unlimited capacity for joy. This was going to require some very creative reporting. 3 Earth days later, Commander Vex 9 paced his command deck like a caged predator. The holographic display showed nothing but static where Kral Voss's biosignature should have been broadcasting a steady stream of carnage and terror. "Still no word from our asset?" Councillor Thrak Vel's voice crackled through the communication array, her mandibles clicking with barely contained irritation. "The beast has gone completely silent," Vex 9 admitted, his 3 eyes focused on the swirling blue marble that was Earth. "No battle reports, no casualty counts, no psychological warfare metrics. Nothing. Perhaps the humans destroyed it," suggested Councillor Mektor, though his tone suggested he found this possibility about as likely as finding intelligent life in a black hole. Vex 9 snorted, a sound like steam escaping from a broken pipe. "Destroyed Kral Voss? With what?" "Their primitive chemical explosives. Their laughably weak kinetic weapons. I've seen that creature survive direct hits from antimatter cannons." But even as he said the words, a cold dread was settling in his primary stomach. Something had gone wrong, something unprecedented. And in his experience, unprecedented usually meant catastrophically bad. "Sir," Navigation Officer Plix 7's voice cut through his brooding. "Incoming transmission from the surface. It's Kral Voss." The command deck fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Finally, after 72 hours of radio silence, their ultimate weapon was checking in. On screen, Vex 9 ordered, straightening his ceremonial battle harness. The holographic projector flickered to life, and the bridge crew collectively gasped. There was Kral Voss, unmistakably their apex predator, but something was profoundly different. He was sitting cross-legged on what appeared to be a colorful blanket, surrounded by small human children. On his massive head sat a tiny crown made of yellow flowers, and his usually terrifying claws were delicately holding a small ceramic cup. "Greetings, Command," Kral Voss said, his voice carrying an unfamiliar note of contentment. "I am transmitting my mission status report." Vex 9's jaw dropped so far his translator unit nearly fell out. "Kral Voss, what in the 7 hells of Vortak Prime is that on your head?" "This is a daisy chain," the Predator replied matter-of-factly. "Emma crafted it for me during what humans call a tea party. It is a social gathering where participants consume heated plant-based beverages and engage in pleasant conversation." "Pleasant conversation?" Vex 9's roar echoed through the bridge. You were sent to demonstrate our military superiority, to strike fear into the hearts of these pathetic primates, to show them the futility of opposing the Vorthak Empire. Kral Voss tilted his massive head thoughtfully. Yes, about that. I have discovered several fundamental flaws in our intelligence assessment of human society. On the screen, a small human child with curly red hair tugged on Kral Voss's arm. Kyle, who are you talking to? Is that your family? The alien predator looked down at the child with what could only be described as affection. These are my former associates, Lily, from my previous employment. Oh, Lily's face brightened. Are they coming to visit? We could have a really big tea party. I do not believe they are prepared for that level of social interaction, Kral Voss replied gently. Vex 9's three eyes were bulging so far from his skull, they looked ready to launch themselves across the bridge. Former associates? Previous employment? Kral Voss, you are a weapon of the Empire. Your purpose is to kill, not to what are you even doing? Currently I am participating in what Emma calls make-believe. We are pretending that I am a dragon who has retired from terrorizing villages and now runs a successful bakery specializing in cupcakes. The silence on the bridge was so complete that the automated air recyclers sounded like roaring windstorms. The cupcakes, Vex 9 repeated slowly, as if the word might make more sense if he said it quietly enough. Small cake like confections topped with sweet frosting, Kral Voss explained helpfully. Emma has taught me 17 different recipes. My favorite involves chocolate and what humans call sprinkles. Councillor Thrak Vel's voice cut through the communication array like a plasma blade through butter. Kral Voss, you will cease this bizarre behavior immediately and complete your mission parameters. Demonstrate overwhelming force, establish dominance, show these creatures why they should fear the might of the Vorthak Empire. On screen, Emma Murphy appeared at Kral Voss's elbow, her bright yellow pigtails bouncing as she climbed onto his lap. Kyle, your friends sound really grumpy. Are they having a bad day? Kral Voss's expression softened in a way that made several bridge officers question their understanding of biological anatomy. They are experiencing what you might call work stress, Emma. They have forgotten how to be happy. That's really sad, Emma said, her face scrunching up with genuine concern. Maybe they need ice cream. Ice cream always makes me feel better when I'm grumpy. An astute observation, Kral Voss agreed. Perhaps they would benefit from experiencing human recreational activities. Vex 9 felt his primary brain beginning to shut down from pure overload. This could not be happening. His ultimate weapon, his galaxy-conquering apex predator, was taking life advice from a creature that probably couldn't even spell galactic domination. Kral Voss, he said, struggling to keep his voice level, you are suffering from some kind of psychological contamination. To report to the extraction point immediately for mental reconditioning. The predator's three eyes focused on the screen with laser intensity. I decline. You what? I decline your order. I resign from active duty, effective immediately. If the bridge had been quiet before, it now achieved a level of silence that could be weaponized. Somewhere in the background, a cooling system made a small whirring noise that sounded like the death rattle of the Vorthak Empire's military reputation. You cannot resign, Vex 9 spluttered. You are a biological weapon. You were created for this purpose. Your entire genetic structure is optimized for warfare. Perhaps, Kral Voss said calmly, but I have discovered that I prefer my current genetic structure to be optimized for friendship, learning new recipes, and helping Emma with her homework. Homework? Manned. Educational assignments designed to reinforce classroom learning. Yesterday I assisted her with mathematics. Today we are working on a science project about planetary systems. She is quite interested in learning about other worlds, though I have focused on the ones with the most pleasant climates and interesting wildlife. Emma's voice piped up from off-screen. Kyle knows about so many cool planets. He told me about one where it rains diamonds and another one where the trees are purple and sing songs. They do not sing songs, Kralvos corrected gently. They produce harmonic vibrations in response to atmospheric pressure changes. That's singing. Emma insisted with the absolute certainty that only 6-year-olds can achieve. You may be correct, the former apex predator conceded. Vex 9 realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in the history of the Vorthak Empire. Their most dangerous weapon had not been destroyed, captured or reprogrammed by the enemy. It had been befriended by a small human child with pigtails and an apparently infinite capacity for joy. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You are Kralvos, the apex slayer. You have conquered entire star systems." "Yes, and do you know what I learned from conquering entire star systems?" Kralvos asked, his voice taking on a philosophical tone that was deeply unsettling coming from a creature designed for maximum lethality. "Conquest is remarkably boring. You arrive, you establish dominance, you file reports, you move on to the next target. Rinse and repeat across the galaxy." He gently adjusted Emma's position so she was more comfortable on his lap. "But learning about friendship, about kindness, about the way humans create beauty for no strategic purpose whatsoever. This is endlessly fascinating. Emma has taught me more about the universe in 3 days than I learned in 3 centuries of warfare. What could a primitive human child possibly teach the most sophisticated predator in the galaxy?" Vex 9 demanded. Kralvos was quiet for a moment, his massive claws gently stroking Emma's hair as she dozed against his chest, exhausted from their afternoon of play and learning. "She taught me that strength without compassion is just another form of weakness," he said finally. "That the most powerful force in the universe is not the ability to destroy, but the ability to create joy in others. That fear may command obedience, but love inspires loyalty that cannot be broken by any weapon." He looked directly into the camera, his 3 eyes burning with an intensity that was somehow more frightening than his old battle rage had ever been. "And she taught me that a civilization capable of producing beings like Emma Murphy is not one that should be conquered. It is one that should be protected, cherished, learned from." The silence stretched on for several heartbeats before Councillor Mech-Tor's aged voice crackled through the speakers. "Are you saying that these humans have somehow converted you?" "Converted?" Kralvos chuckled, a sound like distant thunder. "No, Councillor. They have done something far more dangerous than conversion. They have shown me what I could become if I chose to be something other than what I was created to be." Emma stirred in his arms, blinking sleepily. "Kyle, is your meeting almost over? Mom said we could have pizza for dinner, and she wants to know if you can stay." "Pizza?" Vex 9 asked weakly. "Flat bread topped with tomato sauce, cheese and various other ingredients, then heated until the cheese melts," Kralvos explained. "Humans have perfected the art of combining simple ingredients to create profound satisfaction. Emma's mother makes an excellent variety with pepperoni and mushrooms. Your mother invited a 12-foot alien predator for dinner." This from Navigation Officer Plix 7, who seemed to be having trouble processing the concept. Emma nodded seriously. "Mummy says Kyle is welcome anytime because he helped me with my math homework and taught me about the nitrogen cycle and promised to show me how to identify different types of clouds." "The nitrogen cycle," Vex 9 repeated numbly. "It is fundamental to understanding planetary ecosystems," Kralvos said. "Emma is remarkably quick to grasp complex scientific concepts when they are explained properly. I'm going to be a space scientist when I grow up," Emma announced proudly. "Kyle says I'd be really good at it because I ask lots of questions and I'm not scared of big things." Vex 9 stared at the screen, watching his ultimate weapon gently help a human child arrange her stuffed animals for what appeared to be another tea party. This was not how galactic conquest was supposed to work. There were protocols, procedures, established patterns of domination and submission. There were not supposed to be tea parties. "Kralvos," he said finally, "what am I supposed to tell the High Council?" The former predator considered this seriously. Tell them that humanity's greatest weapon is not their technology or their numbers or their capacity for violence. Tell them that their greatest weapon is their ability to see the potential for good in others, even in creatures like me. Emma looked up at the screen with bright, curious eyes. Are Kyle's friends going to come visit Earth? We could show them all the best places, like the zoo and the science museum and the park where the really good ice cream cart is. Ice cream again, Vex 9 muttered. It really is remarkable, Kral Voss said earnestly. The variety of flavors alone suggests a level of creative innovation that our military analysts completely failed to account for. Our military analysts were not tasked with evaluating frozen dairy products. Perhaps that was their first mistake. As the conversation continued, more children began gathering around Kral Voss, drawn by Emma's enthusiastic introductions. Soon the screen showed the most feared predator in 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, surrounded by a dozen human children, all of them chattering excitedly about their favorite colors, their pets, their plans for summer vacation. And Kral Voss was listening to every word with the focused attention he had once reserved for battle tactics and kill strategies. Final transmission, Vex 9 said desperately. Kral Voss, I am ordering you to return immediately for debriefing and reassignment. The former weapon looked up from where Emma was showing him how to braid flower stems into a necklace. Commander, with all due respect, I have found my assignment. These children have taught me that there are forms of strength that do not require conquest, forms of victory that do not require defeat of others, and forms of purpose that do not require the destruction of anything beautiful. He paused, helping Emma untangle a particularly stubborn daisy stem. I was created to be your ultimate weapon. But Emma Murphy and her friends have helped me understand that I can choose to be something better. I can be their friend, their protector, their teacher. I can be someone who creates rather than destroys. The transmission flickered as Emma held up her completed flower necklace. Look, Kyle, it's perfect, just like you taught me. It is indeed perfect, Kral Voss agreed, accepting the necklace with the solemnity usually reserved for receiving military decorations. Thank you, Emma. Kral Voss, Vex 9 tried one last time. What happens when they discover what you really are? When they learn you were sent here to harm them. The former predator was quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant. Then Emma tugged on his arm again. Kyle, what's wrong? You look sad again. I was just thinking about truth, Emma, about the importance of honesty. Mummy says telling the truth is always better, even when it's scary. Your mother is a wise woman. Kral Voss looked directly into the camera one final time. Commander, I believe I have learned something that the High Council needs to understand. Humanity's greatest strength is not their weapons or their technology. It is their capacity for forgiveness, for seeing potential good in others, for believing that anyone can change and become better than they were. Emma nodded seriously, like how the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes. Exactly like that, Emma. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Vorthak command ship in stunned silence. Somewhere on Earth, the most dangerous predator in the galaxy was learning to make friendship bracelets and discussing the finer points of Dr. Seuss with a 6-year-old girl who called him Kyle. Vex 9 slumped in his command chair, staring at the empty holographic display. What do we tell the High Council? Navigation Officer Plix 7 cleared his throat nervously. Sir, if I may make a suggestion. At this point, I'm open to anything. Maybe we should ask if they want to try some of that ice cream. And in the depths of space, the Vorthak Empire's greatest military mind found himself seriously considering the tactical applications of frozen dairy products. After all, if it could convert their ultimate weapon into a Tea Party enthusiast, it might just be the most powerful force in the universe.